two different variations to it. There's a velocity program, and then there's more of a health program. And, you know, again, I mean, I work with the team, and I don't even know all the ins and outs. The guy who has it, he's very secretive of it because he sells it for a lot of money. You know what I mean? So, but the gist of it is you have a variation of balls, 2 pound, 1 pound, regular baseball, towel, and then nothing. And you do what they call holds. And it's basically like you go through your full throwing motion, but you're actually hanging onto the ball, right? And it comes from tennis, basically. And, you know, they did a lot of research, and tennis players don't get shoulder injuries. And, you know, tennis player hits the ball, tennis player, he or she holds onto the racket. And that whole deceleration process, you know, you're actually building strength in the back of your shoulder. So, anyways, so let's use the big kids here for a little throwing stuff. But just real simple stuff to start. You know, the hands are too small. You know, at a younger age, you want to use 3-4 fingers across the top. They get to the point where they can hold 2 across the top. It's very important. Just simple stuff like grip. I remember I used to just get the ball and like wing it over, and I was kind of a lower slot lefty. So if I'm playing in the outfield, my balls used to tail like crazy, you know. And then eventually I got to the point where, you know, okay, I'm looking at the letter C and I'm trying to throw across 4-seam. We always want to try and get these kids to throw 4-seam when they're on the mound at this age. We have a guy on our staff who used to be a general manager, and he's done basically every job in baseball. And he says, you know what? His guys he'd always have his guys throw 4-seam fastballs all the way up until, let's say, AA. So 21, 22 years old, they're throwing all 4-seam fastball before they start introducing a 2-seam fastball to develop more sink. 2-seam fastball is a little harder on the elbow, depending on if you're doing finger pressure or turning it over. But for these guys, everything, just say, hey, look, letter C, fingers across the letter C. Let's play catch like that, okay? You know what, I'm going to steal your glove for a second. And I'll play catch with you real quick to start.
It's right here?
Yeah, sure. We'll do it right here. So after we've warmed up, real simple. You know, you guys know this drill. One knee, same thing, 4-seam. Especially with the young kids, you know, you see them throwing and they're all over the place and all kinds of stuff. A couple of simple little things that I try and emphasize with the young kids is, you know, you've heard thumbs down, hands break, thumbs down, and I try and get them to do short circle, short circle. I always try and emphasize short arm circle, short arm circle, short arm circle. You look at infielders in the big leagues, catchers in the big leagues, really the best, you know, arm actions are kind of short, compact arm actions. Less margin for error. You know, you get long, slingy arm actions, it's harder to find that release point. Whether you're a pitcher, a shortstop, a second baseman, it doesn't matter. The compact arm action that's a nice smooth circle that repeats is the one that's going to throw more consistently, whether it's strikes or on line to first base. Okay, so very simple, 4-seam grip, right? Handbrake, we're focusing thumbs down. We're using our front arm as a guide, not like whipping it out like this, but leading kind of with our elbow and tucking it in, and a short circle in the back. Short circle in the back and following all the way through. So we want to have some type of handbrake down here. Handbrake, short arm circle, and through. And the reason why we do that, again, like I said, is, you know, I think at this age, you want them to be able to play a bunch of different positions. You want them all to pitch. I mean, sure, as a coach, you'd like to have, you know, 9, 10 players who you can put on the mound. If they don't have clean arm actions, it's going to be harder for them to throw strikes. If they have clean arm action, it's going to be a lot easier for them to throw strikes. Pretty simple. All right, so there's no real specific time on, you know, maybe it's like 5 to 10 throws down before you get up.